In this lecture, we're going to be taking a look at how you can animate your first attack animation. All right, so to begin this lecture, we're going to start off by going back to our idle animation that we created a few lectures ago. So once you have your idle animation opened up and ready to go, what we're going to do is similar to what we did in the running animation. We are going to grab this third frame, select it, and we're just going to delete, or you can press the right click over on the 3 here and press remove. So we're going to remove this frame. And again, before we go any further, I want to come up to the top left here and I want to hit file. I want to do save as, so we can save this as something completely different. And we're going to write out attack.ase. So now we are not overwriting our idle animation. So we have 3 frames here. We have the traditional standing frame, which we use in pretty much all of our animations so far, as we do want some kind of stationary frame. And then we have our second frame, which in the idle state, this is our breathing in frame. However, we are going to be using this as our wind up frame in the attack or punch animation. And we have the third frame here, which again, for the idle animation, this is our breathing out frame. For the attack animation, this is going to be the final frame of animation where our arm is fully extended, we're punching. So coming back to this first frame, there's nothing we really need to do here. We are completely good just keeping this as is. However, once we come to the second frame, what we want to do here is we want to exaggerate the motion of winding up a punch. So with these kind of frames, having some kind of wind up is actually very useful because we can actually show the anticipation. It also helps to exaggerate the motion, so we know exactly what we're trying to portray in our animation. For actually creating the finished look of this animation, we're going to start by selecting over the entire portion of the character right underneath the belt and moving them over to the left one. Now I'm going to fix the pan slightly, and I will select right over top of the belt to move everything over to the left again. Now just kind of cleaning up some of the outline lines and bringing the shoulder in from the bottom, we can get the proper wind up frame for our animation. So as you can see here, we have our finished little wind up animation. So we are still kind of using that breathing in and breathing out method. However, in this specific frame, we're extending that front arm back even further, anticipating the motion of that arm swinging forward. And we're also leaning the entire character backwards so we can set our character up to get ready for that final punching frame. So coming over to this third frame here, what we can do now is we already have this breathing out kind of crunched in character proportion set. So now what we can do is actually fully extend this front arm. But before we do that, we actually want to just get rid of this entire back arm completely because we want this arm to be behind our arm altogether. We don't want to be showing this back arm because it's going to be actually behind the torso of the character. So just like we did in our jump animation, we're going to actually grab this glove here and we are going to flip it. So if you press Shift H, we actually can flip the entire face of the selected frame. And I'm going to actually drag this over 8 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frames over. If you want, you could even extend this further to exaggerate the motion, moving this over 2 more pixels to be 10 pixels to the right, translating over, and we can actually move this 1 pixel up. So now that we have the final position for the hand, we can actually start to connect this by reconstructing where the arm actually comes from the shoulder and kind of filling in these missing pieces from where the hand has now left our sprite image. So to begin, I will start by grabbing a temporary red color to make a 3 pixel tall arm across from the edge of the boxing glove to the base of the shoulder. Now we can grab the shadow skin color to fill back in the remainder of the character's body, along with widening back out the brown belt and the blue pants along with the black outline. We can then recolor the arm using the lighter skin color to show the light hitting the protruding arm and just fix the shape on the arm and the fighter's back ever so slightly for proper proportions. Almost done. I'm just going to push the front leg forward and slightly restructure both legs to mimic a wider stance while punching. Finally, let's add a couple pixels behind the player's back in all black to signify the shadow of our back arm reaching behind the character's torso. To make this animation more fluid, we can Alt-N to duplicate our punching frame 2 more times and head back to our first frame to duplicate the stationary frame only once for a total of 6 frames of animation. We'll talk about the frame duplication in a moment, but I did feel like the legs needed slightly more differentiation between the stationary frame and our current anticipation frame, which is what I'm currently tweaking now. So now that we have the actual animation set up, the last thing that we can do is actually add in some particle effects to make this look like a real punch. So because we have a few frames of animation where we're actually staying on the punch, we can actually introduce some kind of smearing effect to show the force of the punch driving the hand through the air. So what we're going to do here is I'll just pause this animation, and coming from this back frame, as you can see, we have 2 frames of still animation. I personally just use that to extend the animation so you can actually see it. But if we get rid of this second frame, we only have 1 stationary frame, then we have our windup frame, and then we have 3 frames where we're in this kind of jab position. So if we come to the first jab frame, what we can do here is we can actually use the same color, the same white color that we use for the eyes of our character, just so we're again not introducing a ton of new colors, but we can grab this color and literally just highlight all the way around the arm. But we're going to take a look at where the arm was. If we come back to the second frame, we're going to look at where the arm was in this frame and compare it to where it ends up in this frame here. So the easiest way to do that is if we come down to the bottom where the animation tab is, underneath the play button, we can see these 5 buttons here. And if we go to the one all the way on the right, the 5th button, we're going to click that and it actually says onion skin. So this is going to be the onion skin of our animation, and we can select that. And now we can see the frame in front and the frame behind our currently selected frames as this kind of ghost or onion skinned layer. So the easiest way to do this is by literally just highlighting all the way around where the glove is in that last frame where we have the onion skin, selecting this ball. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste this, Control C to copy and Control V to paste. And we're going to click and drag this over to where the position ends in that last frame. Now we can literally just connect these 2 frames by coming back to the draw tool and drawing all the way across the arm. Now to signify that there is still a hand underneath this air smear, I'm going to go back to the black and I'm going to grab this black color and I'm just going to outline around the right side of the air to show that there's some kind of object beneath the air smear. Now what's going to happen is, because we're holding onto this position, we're actually going to get rid of most of this air smear in the second frame, so that by the last frame, we actually don't have any smear left. So now I will do the same thing and I'm going to grab the white and I will highlight all the way around using the same effect and highlight around this hand. And I'm going to approximate about halfway through this animation. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frames from the top left corner and finish off the same silhouette here by just filling in the rest of this punch. And just like we did last time, we do want to show a little bit more of this hand here, but this time, instead of outlining around the edge of the air smear, so we'll actually outline inside of the white smear. Now, if we come to this last frame, honestly, you can just leave it as is and just have no air smear in there at all. So before we play the animation, we want to disable this onion skin. So come back over to the bottom left animation tab here and just click on that 5th sprite to disable the onion skin. If we play the animation, we can now see that we have some kind of air smear effect on the jab animation. So it actually looks pretty good, and I'm actually very happy with this. It shows some kind of animation through the legs, the body movement, the head movement, and of course the actual fist flying through the air and slowly coming to a stop. So I'm actually really happy with this, and there's actually no real challenge for this lecture. We wanted to create some kind of punching animation or attack animation, and this actually works really well for something like a video game because you still have a bit of that windup and the actual execution of the fist. Using particle effects can definitely really help you in creating some unique effects for your animations. So learning the smear technique is very important and a nice introduction into particle effects and smears when it comes to more complex animations. I really do hope that you learned something in this lecture about more advanced animations, and I will see you back in the last animation lecture of this section.